I'm going to share how I would divide Piano Black into segments and the stages that would come along with it, and how I would use that approach to conceptualize the piece, and plus some fun facts and inspiration that I've gathered in this pre-production stage. Let's get started. Alright, so to make this work and sharing this in real time, I would chop up this project into bite-sized pieces in order to make it easier for people to consume as this project evolves. We're making a title sequence, right? The end result of this title sequence would be around 1 minute and 20 seconds long. But if I'm going to share each progress on like Instagram or something, I'm not going to re-upload every stage of that piece, the whole thing, over and over again like that. That's going to get very fatiguing. So my plan is chop it up into pieces, and then towards the end of the project, I put it all together like Lego, and then it will be one complete project. I chop it up into like 7 seconds or like 4-second segments. So that way it's like it can be a loop, and then I can put that on Instagram one stage at a time. For context, let me explain the stages of this project and like the overall deadline I have for it. So first you have audio stage, concept, storyboard, animatic V1, style frames, animatic V2, previs, the first pass, and then the final export. Now, that's a lot, right? Those are 9 stages to put together. Each one actually are at different levels of difficulty, depending on what we're doing. Audio just focuses on the music of the piece. So in this case, title sequence, my job was to kind of take, let's say, a 3-minute long piece of music and condense that down into 1 minute and 20 seconds. So that way, we can use it for a title sequence in front of a TV show. The concept stage just focuses on what's called a motion script. Just a basic outline. What shots or what events will happen in this piece, visual metaphors I want to do. The brainstorming session, right? As I'm recording this, I've just started on the concepting stage as I'm, getting my bearings and getting used to working on this a little bit every day. Once I have the outline, the script for it, then I make the storyboard. It can be just as simple as taking something like a paper and pencil and then writing down what you want it to look like, right? Even if you're not good at drawing. So after the storyboarding stage, I would take those frames or those ideas that I drew out on a piece of paper, and then I would take that and I'll put it into video, what's called an animatic, which is essentially just a slideshow timed to the audio. And then the 5th stage is the style frames. I will use the real programs that I will end up using to animate it. And instead of animating it, just one frame of it, one still frame version of that, right? So essentially we're just taking what we drew into reality. That moves on to the 6th stage, which is the animatic V2. Basically the same animatic as we mentioned before, but replacing the drawn sketches with real still images of something close to the finished product. By the way, I also technically already did it, somewhat of an animatic previs type thing. A long time ago, I made a fake previs / animatic of what I wanted to look like. I took little pieces and little clips from other existing content, like the Incredibles title sequence or like the Iron Man 3 title sequence, stuff like that, and tying it to the music that I wanted to use. So really, you could argue that there'd be one more stage to the project. I don't know what you call that, pre-animatic or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so in the 7th stage is previs, right? AKA like pre-visualization. One step away from actually animating it. Like, how can we achieve these animations in the fewest steps possible in order to see a pre-visualization of what we want the final product to look like? Making the scenes with temporary objects and only focusing on the main subject. We're just trying to figure out the movement, right? This is where we can introduce motion and actual real animation instead of just pictures and slideshows, right? And drawings. Then from 8th stage onwards, first pass now is focused on making it production ready. Let's clean it up. Let's make it work. Replace temporary objects with permanent objects. Towards the end of that, the final stage is the final export, right? Like, okay, this is a finished production ready project. Basically now you're just doing finishing touches, making sure that everything is working correctly. Okay, is there any render issues, anything I missed out on? This is kind of where you start to tie it off with the bow. So my goal, all the way from the first audio stage to the final export, have this project finished by early to mid-February. So I'll chop up the project into bite-sized pieces. And doing it like that will make it much easier for concepting too, because now I can kind of focus on one act or one chapter at a time, because each piece each cut will happen basically when the next verse of the song comes in, or the next like section of the song comes in. And then the most exciting part is like once we get to the animatic stage, this is when I can actually introduce video. Beforehand, it's just like pictures. But once I get to the animatic, now I can really. My plan is to just post them on Instagram and Twitter, one section at a time. So when I finish section 1, upload that. When I finish the animatic for section 2, upload that, etc., until I have basically the entire animatic uploaded on the platforms, but just in pieces. And then I do it again, but in the next stage. So now I go from animatic to the previs. So now the animatic, same thing. Is okay, I'm gonna do the previs on segment 1. Then I'm gonna upload that. Then I'm gonna do previs of segment 2, then I'm gonna do that. It's kind of like layering a cake, you know. Instead of me trying to make the entire cake, each layer of the cake at the same exact time or at once, I'm just doing one layer at a time. So first I get the base, you get the regular cake, and you see me making that, and then I put on the frosting, right? And that's all you see me do. I put on the frosting. Then I get the second layer, the second cake layer, put that on top. Is that iterative based versus like all at once? I could have just been like, okay, you only see it animatic once I have the entire thing done. Sure, but that'll take a while and there'd be huge gaps between each stage of the project. Doing it like this would kind of make it easier to not only consume, because people, you know, can see this on the Instagram page and, oh, okay, he's on this stage of the project now. You can kind of, it's almost like a loading bar. You can kind of get a good idea of where I'm at. Versus, let's say, like, oh, I finished the entire previs of the entire tire sequence. Now it's time for me to make the first animation pass. So that'd be 2 weeks without anything happening, or at least without anything coming out publicly, right? Doing that means that something will come out on a frequent basis. So yeah, so I mentioned I was in the concepting stage now. So what makes this great is that actually, technically, I kind of started this a while ago. So now I can kind of build the concept almost like Lego bricks. And let me go back a little bit. One of the mission statements of this project is to make it so convincing that people think it's a real show. Like, make this entire sequence look so convincing that people go, wow, when is it going to come out? That looks really good. When is the show going to come out? And I go, oh, it's not a real show, right? That's how convincing I want it to look like. And that's to say, I'm using the word convincing with a purpose. I'm using convincing, not perfect. It doesn't have to look completely amazing. It needs to just look like something that you would actually see before a TV show starts, or before an anime starts, or at the end of a movie. With that mission statement in mind, or when I was gathering inspiration like a while back, you know, last year when I actually technically started on this project, but then dropped it, you know, because of other things. I made a mood board in Notion and made a whole list of tie sequences that I wanted to look like. And like I made a list of fake names to put on the title cards, you know, because the tie sequence, right, is going to have credits, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to need some names. So I made like a huge list of fake cast members, you know, fake crew members, and figured out, okay, which name is going to play which character. That leads into, I also made up a fake characters. Like, basically, I wrote a small little story with the sole purpose of just making the tie sequence look more convincing. I came up with concepts for the characters, for the main characters, and like what their motivations are, and even like the show synopsis, like what the show is about, what events will happen, like what episodes, how many episodes are gonna be. I thought that through, so that way now when I'm building the tie sequence, I'm actually making it. It's almost as if I actually am I'm working on an actual show. Right, because I have the story and the concepts and the metaphors already laid out. You know, you got like Terry Green, and he plays a character named Curry, who's like the main character. He's like the space cowboy type situation. Which, by the way, when I was doing this, all I did was just kind of rip off Guardians of the Galaxy and Cowboy Bebop. I just merged the two stories together and then call it a day. I'm not looking to write a whole masterpiece here. I'm just I just need a base, just any inspiration to get this going, right? So yeah, I made fake names, a fake show synopsis, fake characters, kind of figured out what the story would be, fake, you know, what the villain would be. All that stuff. I looked up different ways to write a story, different ways to all that. You may go, well, why do all this when it's literally just a tie sequence, and you most likely won't even see any of these details. You won't notice any of these details because it's not, you know, you don't know what the show is anyway. Well, here's the thing. I believe will make this tie sequence look be so convincing, because that was a mission statement with this project, is to be so convincing that people think it's a real show. What I believe would make it so convincing is if I add in those little details and I like pour in those things that maybe on a conscious level most people won't pick up on, but on a subconscious level there's a little bit of mystery to it. Like, oh, what's that? You know, like, it's very interesting. And even though you may not notice them, they actually do matter because those details add up. And that's what creates the texture and the character and the feel and the vibe around that piece. Like, I've had a conversation in the past with someone who was like, wow, like, you know, you write a lot for just a small thing. Like, you write a whole script just for a small 10-second teaser, right? Why do all that when, you know, you can just go straight to the storyboarding stage and call it a day? Well, adding in those small details, even though you won't see them, will come across in the final product, because you can tell there's a little bit of care put into it. Now and then story-wise, there's a little bit of mystery put into it because you added in those little intentions. It's almost like you gave each movement a intention so people would pick up on things that you didn't even directly say, you didn't even directly mention, but they would pick up on it simply because the way you animated it or the way you presented it made it feel that way. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm being so elaborate and making all these fictional stories and names, because that's what ultimately will make such a convincing title sequence. Don't be afraid to let all your ideas spill out when you're in this conception stage. Really be like, do what I did and just be like, just start writing stuff down. Start writing down ideas, anything that comes to mind, even if it's bad, right? Even the bad ones, because sometimes the bad ones turns into something good later on. Here's how I use the ideas I already wrote down, because I've kind of done all this, because I made all the fictional names and all that a while ago. I made that, like, you know, sometime in like mid 2021, right? Back before I was going to start this project, then I stopped. Because I wrote down all these ideas, I can now kind of build the final concept like a Lego bricks. Now that I have the audio, I can go, okay, what scene does this make me think of? Oh, this idea. And then I can literally take that little section, that thing I wrote down, and just drag and drop in whatever order that I want. And then I can slowly build a story, almost like segments, like little index cards in a row. So that's what I did. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, the concepting stage. You may see a preview of that on the B-roll if you're watching the video version, like on the B-roll right now. You know, that's, you know, kind of what I'm doing. The reason why I'm talking about it like this, because I don't exactly know. This is technically past Imsety, so I don't exactly know what ideas I'm going to come up with just yet, but you can see me dragging and dropping around, right? One thing I do know, I know I must have, because all ideas come and go. But the one thing, ever since I really had the idea for this project, there are two segments that I want in this. I want one shot where you see maybe something like a circular object turning into a glass of lemonade being poured into a little very nice, fancy glass, right? Top down shot. There's a shot from the video game Far Cry 6. They had a title sequence and they showed a cup of whiskey being poured as a wheel was turning, and it's like a very smooth transition into that. I want to have that type of shot, but maybe instead you maybe see like a jet engine, like a circular jet engine turning into a glass lemonade or something like that. I don't know. But I do know I want that glass lemonade shot because I think that look cool and it'd be a cool little challenge. And two, I want a shot of a ship, like a futuristic ship going off like really far away, like a really wide shot of a ship riding the desert, like going from left to right in the desert, almost like that shot from Star Wars where you see like the X-wings on the water, or even that shot, even from another shot in Star Wars where they're like kind of riding on the sand, but it's like from really far away. Like that's the type of stuff that I want, like I think it was like a hovercraft, something like that. But anyway, those two shots are gonna be in there because I want to make that work. But everything else is up in the air. I don't exactly know what I'm coming up with yet as I'm recording this. But obviously, by the time this episode comes out, I probably would have had a pretty good early draft of this thing. So, all right, so I think that's it. I just wanted to kind of explain what I'm doing and how I'm going to segmentize and how I'm going to chop up this project and how I'm going to, in the timeline for it, and just overall, just my reason behind this conception. So in conclusion, I will chop up this project into bite-sized pieces alongside other in-the-making content, of course. It's not just going to be the bite-sized things, the 7-second loops. Around the time when I get to the video stages, that's the animatic, that's when I start posting that on my Instagram and Twitter, one piece at a time, and then you slowly see that being put together. And then I guess 2 lessons here, like, don't be afraid to just put in details that most people won't notice, but they will notice subconsciously, because that's where the passion will come through. That's where the story and the, wow, that was really good, that's where that will come from, is putting in those small little details. Obviously, don't kill yourself trying to put in, make everything perfect. That's not necessarily what I was trying to say. It's more so, make things with intention, not just with randomness. The second lesson is I use the ideas that I wrote down as a building block, and I kind of accidentally figured out, oh wait, if I used the ideas that I wrote down before as building blocks for the first draft of concept. So basically it's like, all I really needed to do was just write down ideas and just really just let it do like a brain dump and pour it out. And then when it's time for me to actually like put it together, I can just drag and drop. Like Lego, just putting together the pieces in the right order until you get a complete project, right? It's like you got the puzzle pieces ready to go. Right? So that's effectively what I did. So that's something that maybe y'all can take away from. That's it. So if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram or Twitter. Check out my website at imsety.com for case studies and more. All the links are in the description. If you found value in this episode, I appreciate it if you leave a review if you listen to the audio version, or like and subscribe if you're watching the video version. Feel free to leave a comment down below if you have any insights or questions. Thank you.